and now lecturer in Jewish studies. And this is my dear friend, Izza Genini, our star guest for this evening. And so a few words of introduction about her, and then she will give a few words of introduction about the two films that we're going to watch a montage of. And then afterwards, we're going to have an informal conversation between us and with you. So we'll welcome all that about. And yeah, just to let you know, the films are about music, but neither Izza nor I are musicians, but I do see at least one ethnomusicologist of North African music with us. So hopefully she can help if there are questions more technical or specific to the music. So I thought I'd just start with when I first met Izza, which was 1998, and the Jewish Film Festival of San Francisco brought her here to show her film, which was called Citron, or in the Hebrew, it's the etrog for the religious Jewish holiday of Sukkot, fruit of splendor. And I volunteered to be her driver because I was about to go to Morocco. I was just beginning my, what turned out to be a couple-decade project, looking at Jewish-Muslim relations in the Berber or Tamazight-speaking regions of the Atlas Mountains. And this film was about how Jews, when they went to Morocco, brought seedlings of the etrog so that they can bring their traditions with them to Morocco, deep in the Anti-Atlas Mountains, where the Berber Sus are. And till very recently, they were still growing them. And you'd have rabbis and Jewish scholars come because they have to be absolutely perfect to judge them, working together with the Muslim farmers. And it's just a lovely, lovely film. So I knew when I read about it and that she was coming that I had to meet her. But today, I just had another memory about that visit. And her being so in love and passionate about music, she was curious of the music of the time, which was house music. Do you remember? And I had a very dear friend who I've actually lost touch with. I don't know if he's in the audience, but Tim Fouzan, an ethnomusicologist on Moroccan music now, who invited us to a party with house music. And you insisted on going and dancing. It's really quite fun. So before Izza was a filmmaker, she formed a distribution company for to foreign countries of Moroccan films. And then she enlarged that to African films. And she was actually the first Moroccan woman to consecrate production and distribution for international distribution of films. And then her first sort of production project in 1981 was the film Trance, which is owned by our PFA, Pacific Film Archive, and it's on Nas El Pidouan, which was a group, like especially in the 70s, of, one could say, sort of a combination of the Bob Dylan Beatles of Morocco. And it's a fabulous film. And every once in a while, PFA will play it, so we should get them to play it again. And then Martin Scorsese in 2007 actually chose that film to inaugurate at Cannes Film Festival, the World Cinema Foundation. And then from distribution, Izza found herself making documentaries as a way to explore Moroccan past, because she had spent decades in France after leaving Morocco. Well, she'll tell us more in detail, somewhat young age. And as Ahram, the most widely circulating Egyptian daily newspaper, in an interview, she said, "My personal way crossed my professional way in these projects." And I'm really delighted to say that we have here Ruth Hebra, Acquisitions for Jewish Studies, and they have purchased all of Izza's films, so they will be available for streaming and use in coursework there. So her films are diverse. We can talk more about the different ones afterwards. They're on Jewish music, Muslim music, Jewish Moroccan Muslim music that we're going to watch now, but also she has one called Return to Walad Woman, which is her own family story. She's the ninth of 9 girls, and the first 3 were born in a Berber village, Walad Woman. And in the film, she brings everybody back there. And then the next 3 were born in Marrakesh, and the final 3 in Casablanca. And then they spread all over the world. So the film describes the saga of this exemplary migration to which the multitude of scattered families today might identify. So her films, while often personal, are also very global, universal issues. And so after the film, we will get a chance to have a conversation on Izza's life, how she came to the films and filmmaking. And first, she'll give a couple words about the film, but I wanted to mention there's a group that's mentioned for the second film that we're going to see. It's that the bringing together of the musicians was part of this group called Identité et Dialogue, Identity and Dialogue, which I wanted to mention in 1974. It was one of the founders was André Azoulay, who's Jewish and senior advisor to His Majesty King Mohammed VI of Morocco, as he was to his father as well. And it's a Sephardic Jewish group based in Paris, and it later became one of the first Jewish organizations to call for a Palestinian state that coexists in peace side by side with Israel. So that's the group that you'll see the name in the second film. So Izza, will you tell us a little about what we're going to see?
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Sarah, for telling quite a few words and even more than a few words to say about my experience in this field of movies and my relation with Morocco. And so it's quite a story. Now I could speak about my relation to music, because first I must say that I'm not a musicologist. I never studied music. I'm not even a musician, but I feel a lot about music, because if we look backwards or in my choices, as a distributor, as a producer, and now as a director, music is very present. I met quite, but all kinds of music. It can be reggae or opera or salsa
or Moroccan, house, like I said,
or house or techno. I have for me, there is no border between musics. So music has always taken a big place in my life. And what the film that we are going to see speaks more, it goes beyond music, because when I went back to Morocco, it's absolutely music who took me back to my own identity. And as a matter of fact, I made a film called With Drums Beating, and which really, once I have made all those films about music, I had to ask myself, what is this power of music that brings you back to yourself? So that I can say my own experience. Now to say a few words about the film that you are going to see, which are more specifically based on Moroccan Jewish Muslim music. As usual, I choose my subjects according to what I feel. I have to have the goosebump. If I don't have the goosebump, I don't do it. So that's what happened with Embroidered Canticles once for the first time in Paris in the 80s, which was at that time quite an event. The Muslim master of Andalusian music of Tétouan, Abdelsadek Chekara, met for the first time the Rabbi Haim Louk. and they sang together in a synagogue in Paris. It was like if they never, they have always been living together. There was such a harmony that inspired me, because 1 year after they were giving a big concert in Paris. So that's how the film was born.
And
after many other documentaries on music, I don't know why I started to make nûba of golden light. I don't know why. In fact, I know why. I was in writing residence écriture. In fact, I was dreaming to write a feature film. And it was complicated for me to find the right structure and everything. I said, okay, why should I should inspire myself from a nûba. Nûba is a piece of music which is structured according some movements. And I said, I will build my film like a nûba. But then I was so interested in nûba that it became a film on the nûba, which is the Arab-Andalusian music. So the film will tell you a little more than what I tell you now, but after I would be happy to answer to all your questions. Voilà, ça va?
Okay, so we'll set up the film and enjoy. It's about 37 minutes. It starts with the nûba and ends with the embroidered canticles. And then we'll look forward to conversations.
Thank you.
باش عندي واحد كيتصنت الآن ولكن يمكن نقول لك كاين اللي مع المده كيتبر معاها وكيمشي معاها وكاين اللي تيبقى يسمعها كيقول لك هنا تسمع الكلمات ومنين تسمع الكلمه وتسمعها معاها باش تصير راسك في واحد بصراحه راك عايش في واحد العظمه ديال الكلام ديال الشعر.
D'où vient cette musique? Arabo-andalouse pour les uns, Maghrebo-andalouse pour les autres. La nûba est la symphonie andalouse que tous chérissent jalousement depuis si longtemps. Depuis 13 siècles, quand le souffle chaud du désert marocain poussait alors vers les terres plus fraîches les rois morts et leurs montures. Au rythme des tambours animés de la nouvelle foi musulmane, il parvint jusqu'au croisement de la terre et de la mer. Là où le détroit de Gibraltar résonne encore du nom de celui qui le franchit le premier en 711, Tariq ibn Ziyad. Dans le même temps, de l'autre côté de la Méditerranée, un autre souffle, aussi conquérant, propageait les fastes des cours des califats arabes de Damas et de Bagdad, depuis l'Inde jusqu'à la pointe de l'Espagne. Tels les rapides qui tantôt se divisent et tantôt s'entremêlent, des courants visigoths, musulmans et juifs irriguent l'Espagne médiévale dans un bouillonnement spirituel, intellectuel et artistique. Dans les périodes de rigorisme religieux, les confréries soufis ont contribué à sauvegarder ces musiques, car selon leur philosophie, la musique est plus qu'un divertissement, une manière pour l'âme de se rapprocher du Créateur. La poésie bachique et amoureuse transfigure la beauté féminine en beauté divine, l'ivresse du vin en ivresse mystique.
كانت متوفرة في الموسيقى الأندلسية. هناك ميزان يوجد في الميازين القديمة الإغريقية وهو الدرج يشير موجود. إذا الموسيقى اليونانية تعتبر موسيقى غريبة. نقول هذا المفهوم هذا الخلاصة ديال القول خاضعة لنمط غربي كان زمن الموسيقى الميديفال أو الموسيقى الوسطى فدرسها وحنا لاحظنا بالملموس. حتى في المانيسكري اللي كانوا هناك أجواء اللي كانت في إسبانيا كتوجد فيها المسلم واليهودي والمسيحي. كاين واحد الانسجام حاصل لأن الموسيقى ما عندهاش لون ما عندهاش حدود كتخاطب البشرية.
En 822 arrive à Cordoue un fin lettré et musicien prodige, Ziryam, surnommé le Merle Noir, qui vient de Bagdad, fuyant la vindicte de son maître, Israq al-Mausili. À la cour omeyyade d'Abderrahman II, il développe les aspects théoriques et pratiques de la musique arabo-andalouse et définit les canons de la nûba.
Ziryam était un homme très raffiné. C'est un homme qui a fait énormément pour la musique. Il a été le premier à concevoir une sorte de signe pour écrire la musique. Il n'y avait pas les signes, mais lui, il avait conçu l'écriture à partir des couleurs.
Abdelrahman كاين فيه 4 ديال الاوتار وكل وتر
تيرمز لواحد اللون كاين الاحمر والابيض لان هذا بدون صبغه والاصفر والاسود. انظر الى الاوتار كيف تركبت بالطبع مثل طبائع الانسان لان الطبائع ديال الانسان هما 4. كاين الرماد هو الصوت، كاين المايه هي عين، كاين الحسين هو نار، lorsqu'il a ajouté la 5e corde, au luth, pour lui, il a ajouté ce qu'il a appelé l'âme. Effectivement, l'âme, c'est quelque chose qui résonne. À propos des instruments qui sont utilisés dans la musique andalouse, il y a le rabab. Le rabab qui contient 2 cordes basses qui rappellent les cordes vocales.
On voit dans la miniature qu'on possède des cantigas de Santa Maria, qui sont des chants amandières. On voit dans les miniatures qui sont conservées dans des manuscrits des musiciens qui jouent du rabab. C'est effectivement cette double culture, la culture de l'intérieur qui est pour moi cette culture arabo-judéo-andalouse, n'est-ce pas, et la culture donc, que j'ai apprise au conservatoire avec par exemple le répertoire des cantigas, dont on sait très bien qu'à la cour du roi Alphonse de Castille, donc Alphonse le Sage, Alphonse le Sable. Pourquoi Alphonse le Sable? Parce que dans cette cour-là vivaient des musiciens. Cette époque-là s'appelait la convivialité.
L'art musical de la nûba, nourri par le vieux fond berbère venu du sud marocain, l'art savant des villes orientales et le chant des trouvères chrétiens, éclos dans les chants arabes, espagnols ou séfarades dans une fraternelle unité. Les racines de la civilisation andalouse sont replantées au Maghreb, en particulier la musique, qui prend au Maroc le nom d'El Alam. Cantique brodé fait allusion au matruz, un genre musical dont les textes des chants sont alternativement composés d'hébreu et d'arabe. El matruz renvoie à l'époque où juifs et musulmans vivaient en bon voisinage, baignés d'une véritable osmose culturelle. En novembre 88, à Paris, un concert exceptionnel réunit au centre Rachid le Rabbi Haim Louk et l'orchestre de Abdelsadek Chekara, venu spécialement de Tétro.
الأولى أن الموسيقى الأندلسية يعني معروفة أن الأندلس موجودة في المغرب. فالموسيقى الأندلسية معروفة عند جامع، عند الجني وعند العود وعند العرب اللي كانوا يسمون في الأندلس، وبقت الأخير موجودة إلا في المغرب. موجودة في المغرب وفي الجزائر وفي جميع الصفات. طبعا هو الحياة كثير الذين يزدادوا يسمون شيء شيء عود أذان كمعطل شكارة برحيم عبد الله يقول حضرين شيء شيء كامل أتم تصير شهيد لندو التوموري لندو بقطع صورة شيء حسنات أشياء مش هيقول لي ده أحد الأشخاص شيء أنا أقول لك أنا بعمل بالكريم فدايما كده شيء يعرف الأشخاص دي مش معرفة تقول ولما تقول يعملوا ستايل كده
Les retrouvailles des musiciens avec un public fervent, organisé par l'association Identité et Dialogue, est un événement depuis que de nombreux Juifs ont quitté le Maroc. Abdelsadek Chekara, Abdelsadek Chekara, Rabbi Haim Louk et l'ensemble de l'orchestre s'accordent d'emblée, c'est qu'ils sont tous nourris à la même source de la musique et du chant arabo-andalou. Le répertoire de Allah, tel que cette musique classique est appelée au Maroc, a toujours recruté des amateurs fervents depuis les temps bénis de l'âge d'or de l'Empire hispano-mauresque jusqu'à ces temps de dispersion mondiale.
Voilà.
This is, there we go. Before I forget, I also wanted to thank CMES and all the hardworking people here that really helped bring Izza here and do all the lots of legwork behind putting this event together. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes. And now we'll have some time for a little conversation about the film, about Izza's life and what brought us here. I thought though maybe to start with some of the people in the film, Françoise Atlan, the woman main singer in the first film. If you could first maybe say a little bit about her and how you.
I'm sorry, could you say it again?
Sure. I thought we could talk a little bit about some of the people in the films.
Yes, yes,
So
certainly.
to begin with Françoise
Yes.
Atlan.
Yes,
The
absolutely.
main singer.
Okay. So Françoise Atlan, as you could see, is a multi-talented singer, not only as a singer, and she even is agrégée de musique. She's very, the highest diploma in musicology. And since this film has been made in 2007. So it's a not so young film. And since then, she has been very involved in all different repertoire, you know, like cantigas, Sephardi, medieval, and she's more and more famous. She's very much solicited. She teaches too. Now she lives in Marseille, and she is the one who sang before the king and the Pope when the Pope visited Morocco, I think 3 years ago, something like that. So she's quite a great artist, and I must tell you something in advance because she's a good friend, and in the same. And I am preparing for the first time a show. I don't know if you can call it a show about my mother's proverbs, because my mother could not speak French. No, she couldn't read, she couldn't write, but she had so many proverbs. And I was invited in Fez to make a lecture about those proverbs. And it was very successful. And Françoise told me, I will sing your proverbs. So I will sing your proverbs, sorry. And my granddaughter who is here, the voice that you hear in the film, the first one, nûba, is my daughter's, her mother, who is a stage actress and director, theater director. So she will, the program that we are preparing for January in Paris is called As My Mother Used to Say. And so it will be directed by Joanne and sang by Françoise Zaplan. So this is another side of her talents. Okay.
Wonderful, yes. And I assume the Proverbs
Yes.
and your mother's native language was Moroccan Arabic. correct?
Absolutely.
Yes. And then there were two men at the end of the film. I wasn't sure who they were.
On Embroidered Canticles?
No, of the nûba.
nûba. Two men?
Yes, one very, very tall with guitar work and the other sang.
In the beginning of the film or at the end?
At the end, just before Madame Kadosh, before the boy,
Yeah.
and then Mrs. Kadosh.
Okay. In fact, this little boy who has a wonderful voice, now he has 14 more years. So he's quite a man, and he became a very famous, not only singer, but most guitar, oud player. And he's from the north of Morocco, from Chaouen, and has which is a very beautiful city in the north of Morocco. And now he is really going to have a great career.
Wonderful. And we actually saw some images from Chaouen. Oh, the blue, it's a very blue town, the blue doors and the blue walkways, narrow walkways. And then I recognized, I believe, the last woman to sing in that about the Jewish community, and was the wife of the previous president of the Jewish community and the mother of Jackie.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, Jackie
absolutely.
Kadosh,
Esther Kadosh.
Yes, so who is the present president of the Marrakesh Jewish community, and very, very involved in Jewish Muslim relations, in restoring Jewish synagogues and lots of cultural
Yes,
work.
I must say how it happened, because as I was preparing a film called The Rhythms of Marrakesh, I was preparing this film at that period, end of the 80s. And I met a poet who wrote and ordered the poem that we hear in the beginning of the film. I say, I'm going to shoot in Marrakesh, please write something for me, Mr. Jacques Sabah. And he wrote this poem. And one day I was invited for lunch at Mr. Henri Kadosh, Jacques' father, and his wife. It was on a Saturday. We were just the three of us. And so I was preparing the film, and I asked Henri, and I said, you know, I'm preparing a film on Marrakesh. I would like to have someone who could put in song a poem that I have. I would like someone who can sing me this poem. He said, no problem, ask my wife. She said, no, I don't want to sing. No, I'm not a singer. She was refusing. I said, Madame Kadosh, please, I need you, please sing me something. No, he said, sing her something. She started to sing a few words, and I was, you know, as I told you, my goosebumps, so moving. I said, Madame Kadosh, I won't leave you. You will sing for me in the film. So she agreed. She's not a singer at all, but apart from her private circle. And at that time, it was easy to get places like Jardin Majorel, like La Menara. I was very lucky. Today, I don't think I would have such easy. So, so that's how we found a musician, and we prepared the song that you heard in the film. This is the story of Mrs. Kadosh. Was blessed her soul. Bless her soul.
Yes, and Henri's also, yes. And the two places she mentioned are very big tourist spots in Marrakesh, very beautiful, where the filming took place.
Yeah, and I thought it was very moving to pass on this song from the Muslim cemetery to the Jewish cemetery. There is only one wall separating them.
And then in the second film, we have Haim Louk, who actually was a rabbi for many years in Los Angeles.
Absolutely.
Had his own synagogue. And he sang here at the International House.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to look it up. I did go, but I can't remember the year. But yeah, quite wonderful. And maybe, if you want to say anything more about him or the orchestra, or we can, actually, I'd love to also open it to questions from anybody.
One question, please.
I can't quite tell, Mary, if there's questions here. I see chat, but I can't scroll on the chat. Yeah, see, I have the chat, but oh, there we go. It's just about the same. Maybe there aren't any. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So, well, I'll ask questions. I would love, for you to just tell people a little bit more how, the story. You went to France, and then what happened, because it really happened kind of by chance that you, after many, many years, returned to Morocco, and then what happened?
Well, I was born in Casablanca. I lived in Casablanca 17 years when my parents decided to leave Morocco, because most of my elder sisters had already left for France, or mostly for France and Canada. And so my parents were quite old at that moment. They said, okay, now the only thing we have to do is to go to Israel, because they were very religious. And but when we came to Paris to say hello to say goodbye to the sisters, then they said, no, you won't go. You will stay in Paris. We will take care of you. So that's how it happened. So I stayed in Paris with my parents. I studied, then I got married, then I got my daughter, my son. I married a very French man. And Morocco was some behind, apart from speaking few words with my parents in Arabic. Morocco was not really present in our life. And when we were young, we were more attracted by Western world and rock and jazz. But with my husband, we said once, let's have a tourist trip to Morocco, just to visit Morocco. But then I didn't know what was waiting for me. It was a real shock from the moment. It was like if it was in Marrakesh, when I went out from the plane in the street, it was like a revelation,
Revelation.
Suddenly I saw my own parents in the street. And then I realized that finally I didn't know really them. So from that moment, I was really totally passion for Morocco. I said, I must find a way to come back. I don't know how, but I will. And that's what happened. I met a film director. It would be too long to tell you how, but it was by chance, but there is no chance, we say. There are only meetings, so that was a meeting. And this meeting was a film director, and I told him, I never did that, never did the distribution, or I told him, I will distribute your film. And that's how I started to, that was in 73. So that's how I started to distribute his film, then other films, then other directors, and then African cinema, and then here I am. So that was from a thing to another one. I was totally involved in Moroccan cinema, and then I started to, as a director, very, very late. I was 45 years old when I made my first documentary. Voila. This is my story. Okay.
And just interrupt, if there are any questions, but I was going to ask, so your body of work, you gave the title Morocco, Body and Soul. And this is from her brochure. I think it's very beautiful. The title, quote, Morocco, Body and Soul, forced itself upon me at once and inaugurated the way that was spread with infinite flights and joys, and produced some 20 documentaries that are part of it. They tell each one in its own way about the soul and the body of Morocco. Very
yes. I always give a big importance to titles. I think titles for me, it's like a strength that drives me. And in fact, I had found this title before I had the film in mind, because one day there was a big advertising poster in Paris on Morocco, and I was reading it in l'envers, and I could see reverse. And I could see that Morocco is called I said, oh, I like this title. This title will be for like this. So I kept it. So when I started to make films, it was obvious that it will be this one.
And we didn't get a chance to talk about it, but I read that you, besides this project of your mother's Proverbs,
yes,
and Françoise Plan, you have another project called the Market of Thursday, Mon Souk du Jeudi.
Mon Souk du Jeudi.
That's your
In fact, my Souk al-Khamis. The original title is my Souk al-Khamis.
Which is the fourth markets in, no,
please.
So markets in Morocco, especially in the mountains, are named after, they're held weekly. So a village might have that name, but the market definitely has the name of the day of the week, which is the first, the second, third, or fourth. So this is Jeudi, which is Thursday, or Hamis, which is the fifth day because it starts different day of the week. Yeah.
Okay, in fact, when I made the film Return to Oulad Moumen, when I made the film Return to Oulad Moumen, I told the story of my parents and how my father used to work in Gara, a little town out of Casablanca, and he used to sell cereals, corn and
grain.
And as I was the youngest one, he would take me from Sunday to Thursday or Friday with him in this city, and we lived. And in this city, it was very rural, very. And every Wednesday night before the weekly market, the souk, there was a lot of music, horses. I mean, for the kid that I was, it was like Alice au Pays des Merveilles, the Wonderland. And probably that's how I had this love for this culture. And so when we made the film of Oulad Moumen, it was in '94. Of course, we went to Algara. At that time, when I was a kid, it was called Boucheron, which was the French name. So we shot there, and there by chance, I met a great musician in the street with the musicians. And like the very Moroccan hospitality, they said, oh, come, we'll have tea at home. So we had a great moment from which I took a few minutes, which are in the film Oulad Moumen. But lately, now, this year, I said, now it's time for me to have a look at my archives, because I've been shooting in Morocco for many years, so I need to see what's there. And then I saw this shooting. I was so amazed by the staff that I had, by this wonderful thing that I had. I said, I must make a film on this. And that's how the idea of this project came. It's, I mean, in my mind now, because I haven't started yet, it's not a film on this souk. It's not the film really on the singers and the musicians. I would like it to be, if I can, more a film that asks, what is this place that makes you? Is it really the place where you are born, or is it a place that makes you really who you are and what you do? This is very ambitious project. Voilà.
I look very much forward to it, and we'll bring it here to Berkeley,
Inshallah.
since we now have your whole corpus. And just maybe in closing, see if I can translate this. This is an article from Libération, the newspaper in Morocco, about you, that you have composed a coherent corpus that's entirely about the immaterial culture of Morocco, and what the critic Roland Carré described. There's an almost absence of any kind of didacticism. I'm translating, sorry. And you have a close, look that's like an accomplice with your subjects, and that you evoke, the heritage of your country, of your native country, and your personal connection to it. At the same time, I add, as expressing something universal that I think, touches people not from the place as well, as I hope you all have been touched today.
Yeah, that's why we are here.
That's why we're here.
That's why we are here today. I want to thank everybody who let this event happen. It was not easy with this pandemic. It was supposed to be in October, and I want to thank Neil Gailey, who is here, Mary, Sarah, Mr. Assad, and thank you really, because it was not easy, and I'm happy we made it. And thank you for my granddaughter too, who is my precious assistant, as you could see. Voilà.
And thank you all so much for coming. Yes, and thanks to Suzanne.
Thank you for the audience who is behind the screen.
Yes.
Thank you.
I don't know what hand it is. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Oh,
Given all the changes, it's always different every time.
And not nearly as many people signed up, but I guess that's normal. Yeah. Was it still, but getting 30 is good.
Yeah. It was about